Distinguished guests and friends of the Hong Kong Art Gallery Association, thank you so much for joining us today at the second annual Hong Kong Art Gallery Association Symposium. My name is Angela Lee. I'm co-president of the Hong Kong Art Gallery Association. Founded in 2012, Hong Kong Art Gallery Association is a member-based non-profit organization with over 50 member galleries in Hong Kong. Our vision is to advance the Hong Kong Art Gallery community by providing one voice to our members, reaching out to the local and international art community, and helping to deepen art market knowledge and best practices amongst our members. We aim to serve our member galleries as well as the public, to promote the primary market and a balanced art ecology, which is one of the most important elements of a healthy and mature art market. Hong Kong has been recognized as one of the fastest growing and key art market, which with an estimated 7.6% growth per annum for the arts, crafts, and design industry over the last decade. Hong Kong art galleries, with our doors open all year round, organize exhibitions of extremely high standards, which are free to the public, take up one of the most important roles in educating and entertaining the public, as well as being a nurturing ground for new collectors, artists, and art professionals. The Hong Kong Art Gallery Association has been a grantee of the Hong Kong Arts Development Council since 2014. And with the generous support of Bank of China Hong Kong Private Banking, as the main sponsor since 2012, we have managed to organize the Hong Kong Art Week for the 5th consecutive year. This year, for the second time, we are collaborating with Asia Society Hong Kong to co-present a 2-day art symposium. Here, I would like to pass over to Katie DeTilly, our co-president of the Hong Kong Art Gallery Association, to tell us more about this year's symposium.
Welcome, everyone, to our second Hong Kong Art Week Symposium. And I'm very proud to say we have an impressive roster of speakers this year. And I'd like to say many thanks to Alice Mong of Asia Society and also all of our sponsors, especially Bank of China, Hong Kong, Private Banking, for hosting these 2 days, and to all the speakers. I'd also like to say thank you to Meg Maggio from Peking Fine Arts and Fabio Rossi from Rossi & Rossi Gallery, who have spearheaded this symposium and have done an excellent job. This year, Asia, New Frontiers in the Art World, takes a look at Asia and its rising enthusiasm on the international context of art. Through its collectors, museum directors, curators, writers, artists, and dealers, we gather to gain important insight on this fast-growing region and art scene. Museums, both public and private, are popping up all over Asia. And with it comes a learning process that takes time and reflection. However, this art scene is not shy, and it is making bold statements and exciting exhibitions. As Hong Kong, Beijing, Shanghai, Singapore, Seoul, Tokyo, and now Jakarta are making waves and attracting international attention, Hong Kong Art Week hopes to be a unifier in this process, bringing together all the parts to build stronger societies and cities through art as an important backdrop. This exciting week of events in the galleries, I'd like to mention, please do pick up the maps because you have the listings of all the events as well as on our website. This information is many events that are happening. On Tuesday, November 21st, we have the Hong Kong Gallery Walk for Charity. It's a festival of food, wine, live music, performances, and very special exhibitions in over 30 galleries. And this year we also have the Hong Kong Ballet, who's collaborating with us and will be dancing through the streets, creating a real festival atmosphere. And you can buy tickets at the entrance or through ticketflap.com. Next Saturday, we have the Art Day at South Island on the 25th. And it's a warehouse arts district through Wong Chuk Hong, Aberdeen, and Apley Chow. And they're there to welcome you next Saturday. And Sunday, the 26th, is Family Art Day in Hong Kong. at Hong Kong Park. So it's a chance for the whole family to get their hands dirty making art, as well as other activities. So thank you for coming to our symposium. Our first discussion is with a few collectors. Mr. Wiyu Wahono is going to give us a presentation on his collection, and then we'll have a panel discussion with a Beijing-based collector, Mr. Liu Gong, and a Hong Kong-based collector, Mr. Douglas So. I had the opportunity to visit Wiyu's collection just 2 weeks ago, and it was an enlightening and very exciting collection that he's going to tell you more about. Please.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy, for the nice introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. Thank you for coming to this art talk. I would like to thank the Hong Kong Art Gallery Association and Hong Kong Art Week for inviting me to be here. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to share my passion and joy in collecting contemporary art with all of you today. Very central to my way of collecting art is actually the question of zeitgeist. In literally sense means the spirit of the time. I keep on asking myself, in 50 years, or let's say in 100 years from now, in year 2117, people will look back to our time today, and what do you think they will talk about us? What do you think they will talk about our time? Actually, nobody knows. But I personally think, or I postulate, that people will talk about digitalization. Since the invention or the introduction of computers to the public, we are so dependent nowadays on computers. We can't survive without computer. Even people like this who are not poor enough to die from starvation, they have a digital mobile phone. This is an observation that I have seen in my country with a lot of very poor people. They prefer to talk or to communicate in mobile phone than buying food to eat. That means digitalization will become the topic, how they describe our time. The second one is, I think they will talk about globalization. We all know that in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell down. I still live in Germany at that time. There was the Velvet Revolution in the former Czechoslovakia and Solidarność Revolution in Poland, all at the same time. The opening of Hungarian borders to Austria, also in 1989, and the introduction of transparency and restructuring by Mikhail Gorbachev in 1989. In Asia, the Tiananmen Square protest was also in 1989, and in Africa, Nelson Mandela was released from his life imprisonment. Those all very important events took place in 1989. And in 1991, Gorbachev resigned. Subsequently, Soviet Union, USSR, Soviet Union fragmented into Russia, Latvia, Lithuania, Ukraine, and all that small countries. That means the Cold War ended. All that new countries, they realized that they don't belong to the East Bloc anymore, or they don't belong to the West Bloc. Instead, they belong to the global community. So the globalization spirit has started in the years around 1989. This is the reason why a lot of art theory books started to write about art post-89 instead of contemporary art. As an aspect, one of the very important aspects of globalization is the movement of people And the hybridity of culture. We meet a lot of people with different cultural backgrounds, and we influence each other with the way we think. And the questions of identity becomes more and more important. And I think globalization with movement of people, with hybridity of culture, the issue of identity will become the zeitgeist in what they will see as our time. Another topic is, I think they will talk about environment. In the history of the world, the human being for the first time realized that we are destroying our planet. Actually, we are destroying ourselves, because the planet will survive definitely, but the human being will not. So, and I think also they will talk about urbanization. Look at this that I download from the United Nations data. In 1980s, there were only 4 cities, 4 mega cities with more than 10 million population. And you can see the development over the decades. That means all the people leave their countryside globally and move to the big cities. Besides the problems of transportation, education, and health care or sanitation, the very serious problem related to urbanization is that most of the people living in mega cities, they feel lonely. It's a really very, very serious problem, because loneliness will kill the human being. You know that the fiercest imprisonment is if you are put into an isolation cell. If you feel lonely, alone, then yeah, it has to do with your existence. So, and others. So, come back to my collection. Because a good artwork has to be a reflection of an era. That's why I concentrate in collecting art in artworks that relates to the zeitgeist. The first artwork that I want to show with you is made by an artist duo called Granular Synthesis. The first artist is Kurt Hansliger from Austria and Ulf Langheinrich from Germany. So this artwork is 30 minutes long. I just cut it under 1 minute. And so this artwork is called Model 5, done in 1994, very early, shortly after the first digital camcorder was introduced into the market. This artist duo took the digital camcorder and asked a lady to do simple head movement and speak normal language. It was recorded. The result was a digital file, not a videotape. So because a lot of people come to my collection and see moving image, oh, you collect video art. So there were no videotape in this artwork in 1994. So, and this digital file was then processed. It was cut into small elements, the so-called grains of, let's say, 0.8 second and repeated. And then it's cut in 0.6 second and repeated. The amazing effect of digital data processing at that time, it was very new in 1994, that with adequate data processing, you can create emotions. You feel painful, frightening, you feel tired, exhausted, and so relieved. And say, oh, everybody. So this is something very new for the art world at that time. And the Japanese leaders were chosen to do the performance because in 1989, the globalization started. In 1994, people started to find a lot of frightening strangers in the neighborhood. And these frightening strangers speak incomprehensible language. So the voice file was also cut. That's why it was very normal language, the German language that she speaks. So it represents, the context is about the globalization and the frightening strangers speaking their language that we don't understand, and so on, and the digitalized world. Another artwork in my collection is by Ryoji Ikeda. It's a projection of the entire wall. So this white surface is actually a digital file, so the digital number, millions of them and moving. And when the thing comes, it will stop for about 2 to 3 seconds. So all of you sitting here in this room that will definitely have a mobile phone in your pocket. And this device sends millions of data and receive also millions of data in this room. And we cannot see the data flying with high speed to New York, to Berlin, or everywhere. And they are very silent and invisible. And Ryoji Ikeda tried to visualize, if we could see what is happening in this room going out from this building, this will be what we see. So I just take a video from my mobile phone before I come here. See, suddenly all the numbers stand still, and it's mesmerizing. Yeah. So beside the zeitgeist, there are also several issues that shape profoundly my collection. The first is, if we look back to the modernist art of the 20th century, we will very soon realize that there were only painting and sculptures, only two forms. Because back then, people think or people believe that the value and the meaning of an artwork is inherent to the medium. That means a good artwork has to be medium specific. That means if an artist decides to make a two-dimensional artwork, then on canvas, no other choice. If he decides to make a three-dimensional artwork, then sculpture. This is the reason why you only see sculpture. It was a dogma. Artists didn't have a chance. If an artist would do something else, he will be criticized by Clement Greenberg, by Fried, and all that superstar art people, and that. So the dogma was a straitjacket for the artists at that time. Very early, 1955, Robert Rauschenberg already started to create what he called the combines that we know. You can see it in MoMA and in MAT, these artworks. And this kind of artworks is neither two-dimensional nor three-dimensional. And Claes Oldenburg in 1961 produced the store in Manhattan. He sold ice cream, cigarettes, and everything. It's a three-dimensional artworks, but not sculpture, and others, Edward Kinholz, and so on. In the 70s, artists turned away from artist materials. They started using objects of everyday life. That is what happening before contemporary art. So in contemporary art, the artwork is medium A-specific. We don't need to make painting or sculptures only. So artists and also collectors are celebrating the freedom of choice of the medium nowadays. We have so many choices. This is the reason why Kathy was in my collection. I focus on collecting bio art, sound art, light art, performance art, participatory art, scanography, and so on, video mapping. Of course, painting and sculptures also. Yeah. We don't make the same mistake and say everything okay, but not painting and sculpture. Then we will make the same mistakes like in the 20th century, right? So the first big exhibitions, relatively less discussed, is When Attitudes Become Form, Live in Your Head by Harald Seemann, already in 1969. In 2 years, it is 50 years ago. If you see and read about this exhibition in Kunsthalle Bern, it is like today, our contemporary art, because it is medium A-specific. 50 years ago, almost. So this artwork is in my collection, Troma Rama, an artist trio from Indonesia. They make an artwork out of everyday objects, cups and saucers. And the context is about urbanization. Those are people in big cities. They go out on weekend to the street, to the beach, and to the garden. And Sunday night they come back home. This is made of photography and is a stop motion animation. They have been working for I don't know how many months and quote me the price at that time for $300 US. People ask me about, is art a good investment? I said, what do you say? This became the most expensive video art in Southeast Asia, sold in Sotheby's a couple of years ago. There are only 2 copies. Mine is including the cupboard and saucers and cups, and the other collector has only the video art. So he sold his artwork for, I think, about $20,000 US. So another issue that shaped also my collection is how people at that time divided the art into the so-called fine art with no purpose for aesthetics only, and the other non-fine art like graphic design, industrial design, fashion design, architecture, photography, and craft. Because they have purpose, they didn't belong to fine art. These strict boundaries, that's why a lot of books were written about art and craft and all the discussion, what is the difference between that 2 groups. It was also a straitjacket for the artists because it was strictly divided, and all the universities set up Department of Fine Art just to make sure that you understand fine art has a higher status than the other mass culture. And we know in 1964, Andy Warhol did a show in Stable Gallery. The artworks were Brillo boxes. Interestingly, they only discussed about Brillo box. In the show was Kellogg's, Del Monte, and also Heinz, but never discussed. So the Brillo boxes looked exactly the same, visually the same, like the Brillo boxes in the supermarket. And Arthur Danto, at that time, the most influential philosopher, came to the show, and the conclusion was that he made that art and non-art are visually indistinguishable. There is no boundary, no definition in contemporary art. And what makes an artwork, an object to become art is not visible. So with this, the boundary vanished. There is no boundary anymore. The word fine art is obsolete for contemporary art, and everything can be art. Everything. That is exactly what I'm celebrating now. That's why I collect this artwork. It is like a mirror made of 264 glass balls filled with liquid, transparent liquid, and bacteria, living bacteria. This artwork is called bio art because there is something growing, living. I have flowers also growing in my office. It's an artwork. And the CCTV captured the face of this lady with long black hair, and the bacteria changed the color accordingly. So you can see this is the video footage from the lady moving left and right. Yeah. This artwork has won an international award for bio art, international award for new media art. And after 3 years, I found it in the internet. and write an email to the artist in UK, whether it's still available. Can you imagine 3 years, nobody bought an award-winning piece. And I'm so lucky. If you collect this kind of artwork, I don't need to compete against Mr. Liu Kang. I don't need to compete. I don't have any chance because I'm a small collector with very limited budget. And okay. So the third issues that I want to share with you is actually, in the past, a good artwork has to have significant form. Significant form is a combination of lines, colors, texture, space composition that touch your aesthetic emotions. All the senior collectors told me when I went back, I lived 20 years in Germany, I went back to Indonesia, I tried to learn from all the senior collectors. They say, Wiyu, if you see an artwork, it has to touch your aesthetic emotion. You have to feel something. They are talking about, in Western art theory, called significant form. It has to touch the aesthetic emotion. So the judgment of art back then was visually only. The rest, the message, the idea was not important. Nobody discussed about it. Only what we see through our eyes. That was significant form. In contemporary art, significant form is secondary. Instead, the context is for utmost importance. So I think I always separate the issue context with concept, because concept is for me an old school from the 70s, the conceptual art. The idea why the artist make the artwork was in the 70s the art. It was left behind because of certain issues. And today we are talking about the message. What message does the artist want to share with us? This artwork is a participatory art in my collection from an Indonesian artist who lives in Singapore called Holding Breath. She asked audience to come and hold the breath as long as possible, holding a stopwatch. Let's say if you would hold 30-second breath, then you save 30-second oxygen for the world. And this 30 seconds divided by 7.5 billion world population, and then you get here about 4.28 or 4 nanoseconds. That means by holding your breath, you donate 4 nanosecond oxygen to every person in this world. The context is about pollution, oxygen that we need, and if we do something very small in nanosecond, and we can achieve something very great in this world. And there are some other issues that I think very important. One of them is I like to know about why contemporary art was born. Very basic questions. Maybe because of my background, I was teaching in a university. When I started collecting art in Indonesia, I was thinking like, oh, what I read in all the exhibitions catalog doesn't satisfy me. I just want to know from the very basic, like what is contemporary and why contemporary art was born, and then also why human beings collect art and so on. So I always search for something very basic. I just want to share one, I think, very important issue in contemporary art. In the past, if you want to be successful, you have to be a man and white-skinned. This is the reason why there were no or only a handful of successful women artists in 20th century. Not because they were bad, but they didn't have the chance. They didn't get the recognition. So only for men and white skin. And in the 60s and 70s, there were the so-called identity politics movement. You see at that time a lot of demonstrations against racial discriminations, demonstrations against gender inequality, demonstrations for gay and lesbian liberation, which has become LGBTQ+ today after 40 years, 50 years, and so on. And this increased self-awareness spread to the art world, and art people realized that we had the so-called cultural imperialism, or widely discussed as Western hegemony, that how to see the artwork were dictated by the Western sense, by the Western way of looking at art. So that's why when art experts came to Indonesia, saw our 20th century old masters, they were judged being failed artists because they didn't understand our 20th century art. And they just say, oh, yeah, so you don't understand what it is to be a modernist, because Indonesian artists put batik and all the Indonesian tradition and culture into the art. And according to the Western way of looking at modern art, tradition and culture were taboo. Art had to be universal. That is the misunderstanding at that time, but they dictate us how to see it. That's why no Western museums collect Indonesian art at that time. When, if something was collected, then it was in ethnological museums, right? So, and then this self-awareness come into life in the art. There we get the contemporary art. The biggest show discussed in a lot of books regarding Western hegemony is Magiciens de la Terre, Magicians of the Earth, in 1989 by Jean-Hubert Matang in Centre Pompidou, where he puts Western artwork together with artists from, or we would say, he called it off-centered art-producing regions. So from the periphery. Interestingly, I want to share with you that actually 1 year before, a very great artist called Rashid Arain, he became a curator and did a show against the Western hegemony in Chisenhale Gallery in London. But because he is Pakistani British, people only talk about Jean-Hubert Matang. And some 2 or 3 books that I have found, right beside Magiciens de la Terre, the other story from Rashid Arain, just to give you an impression that he makes his show later than Jean-Hubert Matang. That means at that time, in 1989, they already realized about the Western hegemony issue, but they still didn't want to give up. So they always talk about Jean-Hubert Matang until today. And I believe that art history will do correction, and art history has done a lot of corrections. Later, I don't know how long we have to wait, people will find out, they will talk about Rashid Arain first, and then Jean-Hubert Matang. Related to the issue of Western hegemony, I collect this artwork from Ming Wong, a Singapore artist called Life of Imitation. This artwork has got a special mention in the Venice Biennales 8 years ago. It's about the girl who meets the mother. The mother is black, so she denies her identity. And this artwork is put in the way that we see one projection from the projector, and the other one, we see it through a mirror. That means the projector shoots in this direction and the other one in that direction. So it's a 2-channel video art. And I just...
Hello, baby. I suppose you've been to the boss. I suppose you've been to the boss. You lose my friends, my job. Lost me my job, my friends.
I've been no place. I didn't come to bother you.
No, you won't.
Well, you
Not
won't.
ever again.
Not ever again.
Spoil my things here.
Spoil things
and I'll
for me
go
here.
somewhere else.
Just go somewhere else.
And I keep on
and
going.
I'll keep on going until you're so tired.
Baby, I am tired.
Baby, I am tired.
I am tired as I
I'm
ever want
as
to
tired
be.
as I ever want to be.
Mind if I take a seat?
Do you mind?
Yes, I do.
Down?
Yes, I do. Somebody's coming. Somebody's coming. That's why the door was unlocked. That's why the door was unlocked.
I'll only stay a
Stay
minute.
for a minute. I just want to
I came to look at you.
This is why I came.
That's why I came.
Are you
Happy,
happy,
honey?
Are you finding what you really want?
want?
I'm somebody else. Somebody else.
I'm
white.
white.
White. White. White.
So she's denying her identity.
Does that answer you?
She's denying her identity. She wants to be white. And when the black mother came, she asked her to go out. Go away, because she doesn't want her friend to see her mother being black. This artwork is so strong in the spirit of contemporary art because it deals with, there was a scene when the friend, the white female friend, came into the room and see the mom, the black mom. She instantly say, "Oh, you must be the new maid, a new maid. And my shower is full of ant." Yeah, so something like, "Please clean it," or something like that. So there is a racist statements in the video. Fantastic artworks. I love it very much. One of my...
Mama. My baby.
And fascinatingly, the lady switched from left to the right. Every 5-10 seconds. Because there are men, all of them are male. Meanwhile is gay.
They're waiting. So listen,
See?
if it's a new maid, I'll
Say,
report that my shower is full
If you're
of
the new
ants.
maid, I want to report my shower is full of ants.
I'm sorry, miss.
Oh, I'm
That
sorry,
must be
mate.
very uncomfortable.
That must be very uncomfortable.
But I just happened to be
But I
in
just
town.
happened to be in town and I dropped
to see
in
Miss Linda.
to see Miss Linda. I used to take
I
care
used
of
to
her.
take care of her.
But I guess I'll be running along.
I guess I'll be running along.
My plane's
My
leaving
plane's
in a
leaving
little
in a
while,
little while.
Miss Linda.
Miss Linda.
Goodbye, honey.
Goodbye, honey.
Now, take good care of yourself.
Take good care of yourself.
Goodbye.
Well, get you.
Per definition, it is called filmic art actually, but very less people talk about filmic art because every moving image is called video art. So, do I have a time? Not 2 minutes, maybe. I want to share this artwork made by Indonesian artist, Tintin Bulia. She produced a world map with Indonesian flowers and spices on the floor. And then she asked the expatriates who live in Jakarta to move the flowers according to their personal history, where they have lived. So supposedly one from America will took a bunch of flower, red color from America, and move to Africa. And the flower will mix with the yellow color of Africa continent. And then he will take the red color, but in this case, the culture is already mixed with African culture. And then he will move to Jakarta. And after a while, we can see here, this is the world we are living today. There is no pure culture anymore. This kind of artwork is called participatory art, or by Nicola Borio called relational aesthetics. I was very interested into it because the artist actually didn't produce the artwork, but the audience. And this kind of artworks were very flourishes in the 90s alongside the rise of the so-called third wave politics. Tony Blair, Bill Clinton were third wave politicians, and even I just want to say Osama bin Laden, Obama. Even Obama keep on speaking, we can change the world. We can end the war. It's always about we, so private and public partnership. That's why this kind of artwork were born together with the political development. So those are all the representative artworks in my collections, and I'm too analytical for a lot of people who meet me. some of the young collectors sit down. We have a so-called art lovers dinner in Jakarta that we sit together with collectors, other collectors. During dinner, we share pictures that I have taken during my travel or other friends. And then we also share about how to collect art and so on. And there are quite many young collectors. After the art talk, they say, "Oh, you're so complicated. I don't like it. I just want to buy what I like. Finish." Yeah. And I said, "It's okay. It's fine. You don't need to come back." So, yeah. So I just want to share with you how complicated it is to be a collector. Okay.